Hi everyone, welcome to our latest seminar for the Singapore property market. We are here to give you a very good insight on how this property market will work for the period of November 2022 all the way to probably January or February 2023. So my apologies for using such a dramatic uh, title such as The Last Chance, because this is what I sincerely believe. I want to go and grab your attention. I believe that the market is going to diverge permanently between public property and private property. That is, HDB will likely stay in the doldrums, will likely start declining in prices and volume, while private property will start gaining in prices, will not stop its game, will not stop its sales anytime soon. And this is actually going to be quite a big permanent divergence that we are going to see that will probably last in Singapore's property market forever, right? Those who can afford private property, I would actually urge you to do so, because private property will most likely increase your net worth, and you have the option of switching to public property subsequently, but not the other way around unless you are very confident you can outperform the entire Singapore economy or outperform at least the average Singaporean by quite a lot to do so. Okay, so without further ado, I'd just like to talk about our seminar. So our seminar today, it's really just about uh, touching on the topics about what's happening today, what is real, what is not real, why is the market behaving that way, and how the market will continue to behave, right? Uh, what we are seeing right now in the news, right? We're seeing fixed interest rates by the banks are hitting 4.5% per annum. And this is a really, really high interest rate that we haven't seen in 20 years, right? Yet property prices are still hitting new highs and sales does not seem to slow down at all, right? So what is happening, right? If interest rates are rising, it's getting more expensive to own a property. Why are property prices still climbing? Why are sales still holding or even climbing? Right. So property market today, we see buyers and tenants are they are as if they are like at a buffet, like, they're just grabbing whatever they can, because the property market actually at the back is still suffering from huge supply issues and a massive backlog. So people are still snatching left, right, center. But how long? How long can the buyers and the tenants afford to pay today's prices, and how much higher can today's prices climb? Right. That is really the question. So by the end of this session, I'll just like to share with you where the market is going. I would like to share with you some advice, some safety advice on your finances, and some tips and tricks to maximize this particular market. Okay. So what you'll not get, this is not some sales seminar. I'm not gonna ask you to buy or sell or rent out your property. Any action you choose at the end of the day is the best action you yourself decided, right? Hopefully today you can gain a friend and advisor you can keep for a long, long time. The reason why I'm doing this seminar is purely for your benefit. I am always an educator. I always believe in educating people so that they can make the best choices for themselves, right? So who am I exactly? I studied economics history, which is about world politics. I studied about business management, which fortunately put me in a very good position to understand how the world economics is rolling right now, how Singapore economics is growing right now, how politics is actually affecting one to the other, right? Subsequently, I worked at DBS Central Treasury Office, which is their in-house analytical office for their own investments, right? I then switched to property and I never looked back. I joined property in 2009. 13 years later, here I am, running and directing my own website and my own group of property advisors at skyteng.com. Okay, so today the biggest myth is that property prices is reliant on interest rates, right? Cost of owning a property goes up, demand should go down, right? But property prices, in the truth, is not reliant on interest rates. And another thing I want to highlight is that property supply is still stuck until 2026. This is a fact that we cannot change. It's totally out of our control. Number three, Singapore's strategy for recovering from COVID with regards to their economy is to allow more foreigners in to boost economic growth. And hence, the economy is likely to grow more, right? Not just these foreigners are bringing their skill sets in, they're also bringing their money in and changing to becoming PR and Singaporeans here in Singapore. right? What property is really reliant on is actually economic growth, right? We want, as long as Singapore is growing richer, property is growing richer. As simple as that, right? And I'm going to explain why Singapore's economy is very likely to grow further. But this growth is uneven, right? Some sectors will do better, some sectors won't do that well. Now, the first myth, property prices is not reliant on interest. The first proof I'm going to show you is that property prices is not reliant on interest rates. So the red line represents interest rates, blue line represents property prices. There's three cases I want to show you that it does not make any sense at all. First, we see here interest rates are rising, property prices are rising, just like now, right? The second time that we see is, hey, interest rates are going up, very, very high. Yet property prices are also still quite high, and when one goes down, the other is going down as well. The last one is that when interest rates are at all-time low, right, below 1%, property prices is not going up like mad, it's flatlining, right? Nobody really cares about the interest rate. However, on the other hand, blue line represents economic growth, red represents the property market. You notice that the correlation between economic growth and property market is a lot closer. When one goes up, the other one goes up. In fact, the correlation is so high, it's about 0.74. Okay, and all this is actually done by OCBC, done data from URA, etc. So now we establish that property prices and economic growth is actually pretty closely linked. The question we have to ask now is whether when one stops, the other stop, right? Whether economic growth will continue growing or not. That's the question. Because if economic growth grow is like red light turn to green light, and property prices will be like the car from stop turn to go. So the question now is whether Singapore's economy will continue to grow or not. That's a very, very good question, right? So will Singapore's economy still grow? There are three factors that's happening right now. There are three things that's happening right now, which I think push us in a very clear direction of Singapore's economy growing. Okay, number one is the world economy is leaning towards recovery. Okay, I'm going to show you facts and data to prove. Okay, number two, world politics is leaning towards ASEAN, and hence it's also leaning towards Singapore because Singapore is like the hub of ASEAN. Not my words, not my words. I got proof again later. I'll show it to you. Okay. Number three is the individual attractiveness and flexibility of Singapore that will draw high net worth individuals, MNCs into Singapore even more than before. So the answer I would say is likely yes, that Singapore's economy will still grow. So first one, world economy is leaning towards recovery. What do I mean? Okay, I mean that, for example, G20, right, Group of 20, the 20 biggest economies in Singapore, in the world, right? Not including Singapore, unfortunately, huh? But the G20 met a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and they had a meeting. They were talking in Bali, and they were talking about how they can coordinate their actions together. And they came to certain conclusions that they can work together to boost economic growth in the world, right? For example, they came up with a couple of billions out that they're going to do it for ESG. They're going to come out with a couple of billions out for Indonesia for more energy. They're going to come out with a couple of billions for Cambodia, for Vietnam to increase their energy output so they can build more factories to help with the supply shortage that's happening throughout the world right now, right? In fact, in China, one thing that I really, really like is that a lot of people complain that, oh, this is Western propaganda or this might be a Western point of view. But what we are seeing here is that even the Chinese side is also confirming that both the West and the Chinese are both coordinating towards a world economic recovery plan, right? To a certain level, everybody needs it. So we look at this, 2022, how did the world economy fare, right? Yes, Western Europe, America, and China is not doing glowingly. They're doing okay-ish. They're still positive. And the growing side, they're increasing manufacturing, they're increasing output towards where West Africa is, where Central America is, India and ASEAN, right? So it's all happening towards here to counteract any lack of production that happened during COVID. And we can see, and of course, even Middle East is also doing not bad, because all these factories need more energy as well. The only countries that are not doing well in terms of economy is all those that are affected by political or war upheaval, such as Sri Lanka and Russia and Ukraine, Belarus, right? Otherwise, everybody else seems to be doing actually really okay, right? Or even well. However, we must also understand that the West and China are having increasingly worse relations, right? And they are both actively doing something to preempt such a worsening relation from worsening further. Unfortunately, their preemptive actions seem to be centered towards expecting their relations to deteriorate further. So both of them are coming out with backup plans for their economy. So in the past, 2019 and before, US and actually Europe as well has been consuming more than almost anybody else, right? Per capita, and in fact, just consuming the most, lah, huh? And where they've traditionally gotten their goods is through China, which produce the most in the world, right? Most than almost anybody else. However, with increasing distrust between the West and China, and also due to COVID lockdowns, the West and China is also pumping towards manufacturing in Central America, in ASEAN, in India, to try and boost the goods that can come out from these places to go and supply back to their economies, right? And hence we see huge growth in these areas, right? But else can be cheap and plentiful. I mean, Central America is not very stable politically forever, right? It's not that stable. Otherwise, if it has been stable forever, it would have been America's first choice, not China already. However, ASEAN is very attractive for them right now because of its 500 million population. Pumping money towards ASEAN as well would also help them counteract against China, since that they are wary of China. Number two. Number three, ASEAN is also very open towards manufacturing because there are also quite a bit of infrastructure already there due to the normal shipping route that already cuts past ASEAN towards America and Europe. So where can be cheap and plentiful, I would dare say ASEAN would be one of the top choices for the Western economies, right? And how do I back myself up, right? So I back myself up by saying CNBC. CNBC is an American news platform, yeah. So and S&P is again a Western ratings platform, saying that Asia Pacific will probably lead global economic growth in 2023, right? We see Biden throwing 20 billion to pump up energy, to pump up clean energy in Indonesia. We see no Business Times talking about how the number of population demographics after post-COVID to keep ASEAN stable, to keep ASEAN ahead of everybody else, right? Even China is pumping money themselves into Cambodia, right? Again, ASEAN, right? Vietnam is getting money from EU, from UK, from the Europeans to boost their manufacturing as well. Okay? And when you boost up ASEAN, Singapore will gain. What do I mean by this? In my previous seminar, I mentioned that Singapore is like the hub of ASEAN because it takes you 2 to 3 hours from Singapore to anywhere in ASEAN, and there are almost daily flights to any country in ASEAN, which makes transportation really easy. Why would Singapore be the hub? Because Singapore has high safety, good education, and fantastic healthcare. This makes it extremely attractive to their CEOs, their managers, to their expats who are seconded to ASEAN to develop the factories here, to develop the transportation here, right? In fact, any mid-high level production will be done in Singapore because it's the safest among all the ASEAN countries, and it's the most centrally located among all the ASEAN countries, right? So we see like how HSBC, how GSK is still hiring, is still expanding. We see that despite the tech slowdown that's hogging the news lines nowadays, tech only accounts for 10% in Singapore, right? The rest of these better performing sectors in Singapore, in financial, in medical, in transportation, accounts for a whooping 70+% of the economy in Singapore, right? Singapore is designed as a base, even for the French, right? They're coming here as the base, right? And we are outperforming everybody else as a foreign direct investment hub in Singapore, in the world, right? Like US is still our number one investor in Europe, is number two, is very close. In fact, China is third, right? Right, UK is second, China is third, right? Which shows how attractive ASEAN is for the economy, no matter Chinese or West, to show how important Singapore is as a hub, no matter Chinese or West. Again, right? And this attractiveness helps boost certain sectors. which sectors? Banking and finance, transportation, communication and media. All of these have to do with helping the region set up their manufacturing capabilities, helping out their transportation capabilities. And these are the one that attracts all the top foreign direct investments. And everybody who is working in these sectors are likely to be paid more than anybody else. Thankfully, these five sectors add together easily account for more than 70+% of the Singapore's economy. Hence, Singapore's economy, I dare say, would likely do well, right? How much better do they do, right? The average salary in Singapore is about 4,680 Sing dollars per month. These guys are earning at least 6,533 on average, right? If you work at one of these sectors. So they earn a massive 39% more than the average Singaporean, right? And likely they are going to get better bonuses than you. They're going to get better benefits than you. And this places them in a better position to get better housing than you, right? Which I will explain why they will be attracted to better housing as well. Okay? Why? Despite everything else, they will prefer to plunk most of the money in housing. Okay. Individually, I'm not done yet. Individually, we also have a lot of foreigners coming in themselves, not just government to government wise. Individually, we have new migrants coming in. The Global Investor Program started in 2018 is extremely successful. We attracted hundreds, almost thousands of new PRs and citizens in. These new PR and citizens, they must have at least have 200 million in investable assets. They must invest at least 2.5 million. If they're bringing the whole family, it's 8 million. It's $8 million, which is used to open up family offices in Singapore, which is used to hire Singaporeans at fantastic salaries of $8,000 a month. And this boosts those who are doing in better sectors even more, right? So not only we are going to get new citizens, new PRs in who are extremely wealthy, who are bringing the local population closer towards their level, we are also bringing in our new expat friends, right? Or people who sign up to the global investment programs include James Dyson, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, for example. These are huge multi-billionaires who own huge conglomerates, right? And they move their HQ towards Singapore. We are also having these new experts coming in. You know, the overseas networks and expertise pass are meant for those who are earning 30,000 or more. These new expats that are coming into Singapore for this new wave of industrialization in ASEAN are earning 6 times the salary of an average Singaporean. Okay. And these experts are coming to Singapore left, right, and center. Right, Singapore is the topmost among the 10 top most desirable countries to work in. In fact, Singapore is ranked number 2, if I'm not wrong, right, based on the article. And Singaporeans themselves don't want to leave. This shows that the number of population in Singapore is going to get more and more. Demand is actually rising in Singapore, and people's income is actually rising in Singapore. And those people with increasing salaries are going to demand for a certain kind of property, right? So we know for a fact that most of Singapore's economy is going to do well, right? Some is not going to do so well, but most of it is going to do well. And those who are doing well are going to do really, really well, okay? On the other hand, we have problem providing enough housing for this increased population, for this population who doesn't want to go anywhere else, okay? In my previous seminar, I talk about supply issues running until 2026. We have COVID round 1, which prevented China, prevented US from supplying us a lot of materials, a lot of raw materials. The factories were closed, timber, cement, wirings are all affected. Then we have COVID round 2, which affects places like, in Europe, in Malaysia, which provides us our electronics, which provides us our door stoppers, our handles, the finished goods, causing backlogs there as well. Then we have round 3, which is supply, right? Ships aren't coming, trucks aren't working. These delays are all going to last until 2026, and there's all this massive backlog. To top it off, Singapore's own government tried to do certain cooling measures because property prices were rising too rapidly, right? Hence, they introduced an ABSD, an additional tax for developers of 35% if the property is not sold out within 5 years. Hence, developers are terrified of building more units and, in fact, start building less units, taking smaller projects so that it's easier to sell out. And smaller projects with less units equals less supply on the market, right? And this is going to last until 2026. In fact, 2026 is the best case scenario, right? We're almost 100,000 homes and 2 years behind schedule. This is how bad it is as of 2021. I haven't calculated 2022 yet. Okay. 2026 is the time where we expect these issues to go away. In fact, that's the best case scenario, as I mentioned earlier. Most sources in the shipping and the construction journals actually put the date closer towards 2030 to 2032. So unless you're not looking to buy a house by 2032, and then we still have 2 years backlog, we still have more backlog, right? According to CNA as well. So you're looking at a 203 plus scenario before market gets normal back to 2019 level. Okay, this is a 1997 level kind of crisis, guys. Okay, this COVID is a 1997 level kind of crisis where it will affect market supply for a very long time. Okay, 1997 affect market supply for a very long, market demand for a very long time. This COVID affects market supply for a very long time in Singapore. Okay, and we know that one side of the market is going to do well. They're going to be paid well. They're going to pay 5 times, 6 times more than every Singaporean. They're going to pay 40% more than every Singaporean. At the other end, we know that supply is not going to increase in the construction market in Singapore anytime soon. We can tell that property prices is just going to keep climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. And less and less and less houses are going to appear on the market. So this is a double whammy. Not just prices has gone up, but the number of houses that is actually sold is actually gone down. Okay, and this will last all the way until 2032, right? Assuming demand can hold, which we know can hold. Okay. So once again, these are the guys who will do well, who are able to pay the additional prices for the less houses that's on the market. These are the banking and finance guys, the transport guys, the comms and media guys, the professional services guys, okay? These are guys who have salary 39% more than you, income 6 times more than the average Singaporean, right? For the expats. What will they do with their additional money? They will position themselves. They want better things in life. They want places with good schools for their kids. They want places with larger spaces. They want a newer house. They want a newer design. They want condos, not HDBs. This is to both as a status symbol, and condos also hold value much better than HDBs. Don't forget, before COVID, HDBs has been dropping in price year after year after year since 2016. Okay, they'll be looking for places with good transportation, right? So what would they buy, for example? So you can tell that the better performing sectors, now we're already at a fork in the road, right? We have one whole bunch of Singaporeans who will be stuck in the less performing sectors. We have one whole bunch of Singaporeans who will be in the better performing sectors. Will be a whole bunch of new expats, new Singaporeans, new PRs with huge incomes in the better performing sectors, with the strugglers on the other side who can eventually only be stuck with buying HDB. That is why the noise in HDB is getting louder and louder, because they have no choice and no supply. They have no money and no supply. Right? So what will the richer guys do? The richer guys will buy the newer XECs, those 5-year-old ECs, right? The lower level guys, to the mid-level guys. They will buy newer condos that's closer to the Circle Line, the downtown line. They will buy newer condos that are in the west, where these industries will be based on. They'll be buying larger condos at Bukit Timah or Serangoon or Bishan or Marine Parade, where the fantastic schools are. So, for example, they'll be buying like Esperina residences, right? XEC, huge space, every room can accommodate king size beds. Right across, you have a mega mall, you have an MRT downstairs, bus interchange, you have a CC. Correct? How much is this house? 1,004 PSF. Way lower than the market's average of 1,693, right? Where will they buy? They buy Lake Life EC, right in the middle of Jurong Town Garden, right? Which is where the new national park is, where the old Chinese and Japanese gardens are. Just revamped, super beautiful. Each room again can accommodate king size, full facilities for about 1,380 PSF. Once again, totally below the market rate of about 1,006 PSF. Not only it helps them appreciate later on, they get a better living, they get beautiful environment, they get better schools. the top end side of them, they might buy new launches, for example, like Novio 18, something that's already built and extremely high end. This is actually not located at Orchard, but located at where Atmore is, where the back where the multi-billionaires row, where Shangri-La is. Huge white spaces, beautiful condo freehold, overlooking the city, very near the top schools at Bukit Timah. What they will not buy, okay, what you should not buy are HDBs. HDBs are actually a pretty bad choice because they're the only option for the strugglers. Okay? Hence, government must step in to keep it affordable, right? They must step in to keep it affordable because when the poor have no choice and the government must house them, they can only lower the price for the poor. Number one. Number two, how I can tell that HDB is not going to appreciate? For example, last time in the past, people want to invest and gamble on HDB because they believe that HDBs cannot be worthless, that be SIRS, and block. Government can save them, give them a good HDB nearby in matured towns. However, SIRS review is totally unnecessary because the MND will not pay for most flats. And in fact, SIRS is expected to be very, very small going ahead. Most flats will drop to zero. Government will not pay you a single cent. You are supposed to leave. Okay? In fact, any new legislation with regards to HDB is always detrimental to HDB's prices. Do you notice? For example, the rules on new model for the prime HDB flats needs you 10 years MOP. Right? You need 10 years MOP. People rather go and buy condos instead. New BTOs being launched. At least three of these projects are going to be the 10-year MOP. Most people buy their flats at 20 plus, 30 plus. Okay, I give you a 6-7 year construction time now. Okay, in fact, most of them I did 2 to 3 years. Originally, they're quoted 3 to 4 years. That gives them a 6 to 7 year construction time. 6 to 7 years plus a 10-year MOP, that's 17 years. You can purchase a house at 27 and can only sell it at 42. By the time you are 42, how are you going to invest in any other private property or upgrade to any private property? Because your loan period is only for 22 years, it's going to be a lot higher than everybody else. Can you afford to upgrade? No, you'll be stuck in a HDB forever. That's what is likely going to happen, right? So we see that every time about cooling measure, the first one to drop, interest rate go up, the first one to drop is HDB resale volume. In fact, if you take the time to go and look at URA statistics or wait until January, you'll notice that condo, because we have a lot of in-house tools, agent apps, to show that property prices, private property prices, and private property volume has actually increased ever since the cooling measures and despite the interest rates. Okay, only HDB will drop and drop and drop, and it's what the government wants. The government takes HDB as a loss-making venture, but the government is happy with it, is okay with it, simply because it's the only solution for the less well-off. Do you want to be stuck with the less well-off, or do you want to try entering the private property market one last time, one last chance? If you can, I would seriously urge you to do so. Right. I also urge you not to consider new launches unless your budget is more than 3 million, simply because new launches can only take floating interest rates. And floating interest rates are climbing, likely to go past the fixed interest rate, 4.5% and whatever. If your budget is not high, which means that your income is not high, then you should not be playing with fire, because if the interest rates keep going up, it can affect your financial well-being by quite a lot. Okay. The conclusion for today I would like to share is that property is closely tied to economic growth, right? But not everybody in Singapore is going to get richer. Some are going to do better than the others, and those that are going to do better than the others are going to do a lot better, right? They will surge ahead, right? This creates a permanent split between the poor and the rich, the HDB and the condo. So please choose condo when you are still able to afford it, when you have the freedom to switch, before HDB's life choose you permanently with their 10-year MOP, with their 7-year construction. By the time you're so old, you can never afford to upgrade anyway, because your loan will be so freaking expensive. So once again, some parts of the market will do better. Private property is going to do better, whereas HDB is going to be going down a much, much darker path, right? Feel free to contact me or any of our friendly team by calling us, dropping a text, WhatsApp, whatever you prefer. We also have a free ebook on how to choose the best properties for long-term appreciation for your consideration. And I thank you so much for your time for listening in to our seminar today. Have a great day ahead, and I wish you the best. Thank you. Bye bye.